Hi guys, welcome back, and today we are back for another episode of Devil's Den. I just wanted to quickly go over, we had some big news in the Devils world today. Erik Haula has re-signed with the New Jersey Devils. He signed a 3-year, I believe it was a 9-year? No, it was a 3-year contract extension. My apologies. 3-year contract I can't speak today. A 3-year contract extension with the New Jersey Devils. He has re-signed. I think the contract is roughly about almost $9.5 million over 3 years. We're probably gonna rough out to about 3.10 million a year. Obviously, first year is going to get paid a little bit more, and the following two years will be a little bit less, just as the caps continues to grow. But Erik Haula re-signed with the New Jersey Devils. We get him for 3 more years. Fitzgerald did a really good job at keeping that number down that we're willing to pay for him. Erik Haula had said that this is where he wants to play for the foreseeable future. He says, this is where I want to play. I want to stay here. These guys are practically like family, and he's kind of loved his year with New Jersey so far. So I'm so glad that Tom Fitzgerald was able to get that done. Now, in terms of the price, getting Erik Haula, which is probably going to be either a second or a third line player usually, but second line if he kind of gets off to a hot moment like he did in the playoffs. Again, great guy to have for the playoffs. Probably be a third line guy, and you're paying just under you're paying less than $3.5 million per year for this kind of player who has kind of had an off time as of recently with other teams, but ever since he's come to New Jersey, he's been a great player, sturdy player. He's kind of been an anchor for the team, veteran presence. It's been really good for New Jersey, and I'm so glad that Fitzgerald was able to get this deal done ahead of the Timo Meier re-signing, which we're all still kind of waiting and hoping that they'll hopefully get that done. So great news. Erik Haula back with us for 3 years. Now, I want to talk about 2 other things before I wrap this up. Again, this is going to be kind of a shorter video. It's not going to be more of a screamy, yelly video. Although I am thrilled to have Erik Haula back. There's 2 other things I wanted to discuss. One is a New Jersey specific thing, and the other is a league-wide thing that I think that's come up in the news recently. So, first things first, New Jersey specific team. So, as everyone knows, or in case you don't know, Connor Hellebuyck, the starting goaltender for the Winnipeg Jets, is not wanting to re-sign with the Winnipeg Jets come July 1st, which means he is going to be hitting the open market come July, I think it's July 2nd, so coming up in the next probably week and a half or so. Now, there's been a lot of talk that New Jersey there's been talk that, he's been approached by New Jersey. He is coming off of a $6.2 million deal right now, a year deal. $6.2 million a year coming off of that contract with Winnipeg. He doesn't want to re-sign. He has no interest in being part of a rebuild. And his asking price, from what I've heard, from what I've seen, ESPN, TSN, Sportsnet, all these kind of sources, it looks like he's probably going to be asking for $9 million a year. Now, the question is this. The question that everyone is kind of asking is Connor Hellebuyck worth it? In my opinion, I don't think he's a bad goaltender. I think he's quite a good goaltender. However, I don't think for the price that he's asking, I don't think it is worth going after Hellebuyck. I think that Vanacek and Schmid had a really good year this year. Vanacek obviously didn't do so well in the playoffs, but that's where Schmid came in and did a really good job for us in the playoffs. And I think that we have a really good combo going of 1A, 1B. If Connor Hellebuyck was willing to take a smaller contract, probably closer to $6 or $7 million, like he has with Winnipeg right now, maybe I could be persuaded. But Connor Hellebuyck does not seem to me the type of player that kind of wants to negotiate and kind of be, I don't want to say be a team player, because he's done so well for Winnipeg. He's bent over backwards for Winnipeg. He's played really well for them over the years, and I get his feeling of frustration. It's like, I don't want to be part of a rebuild. I'm 34 years old. Like, I'm probably finishing out my career in the next 4 or 5 years. I don't want to be a part of a rebuild. I want to win a cup. And I totally get that, right? I totally understand. But for $9 million a year, I don't like that asking price, because you have to keep in mind, right? Some people might say, well, Connor Hellebuyck by himself might be worth $8 or $9 million, and maybe that's true. I don't know. My opinion is no. However, you have to also think about it. we're still in contract negotiations with a bunch of players. Meyer for one, Sharangovich for another, Graves is another. We still have a bunch of contracts that we need to decide, are we keeping or are we getting rid of? And if you're willing to throw $9 million at a guy per year, not 9 years over 3 years or 4 years, whatever it is, $9 million per year, I think that's going to affect the contract negotiations of all of these other New Jersey players who have already proved their value to the team, and I think they're going to get a little shafted and a little, might I say, pissed off about the fact that we're willing to pay a guy $9 million and he hasn't even strapped on a pair of skates for this team. We have no idea if Connor Hellebuyck's going to be good for New Jersey. We're taking kind of a gamble chance, and for that price point, I don't think he's worth it. You're going to give Hellebuyck $9 million, but then turn around and only give Bratt, Meyer, and Hischier and them like $8 million? Like, really? Like, is that really what we're doing right now? Like, no, I don't think it's fair to guys who have been with this team through the last several years, have played through the muck, played through the kind of the really crappy years, and have now are kind of getting the fruits of their labor with a team that can actually compete in the playoffs. We made the second round this year, okay? We were able to rebuild and make it to the second round before the Leafs could, and the Leafs have been trying for the last 50, like, what's it been, 20 years? Okay, we've done so much better in terms of that, right? And I don't want to throw away potentially what is New Jersey's future on one guy that we don't even know is going to pan out yet. Okay, I get it. Connor Hellebuyck is a good goalie. I'm not saying he's not. But I think that the value and the money he's asking for is way too much for us to consider disrupting what I would argue is a pretty good goalie tandem. Now, if you want Hellebuyck, that's fine. If you want to compete in free agency, that's fine. I get that. But we're not in free agency yet. He's still on contract with Winnipeg. And if you want to make a deal with Winnipeg for Hellebuyck, you're looking at getting rid of at least Sharangovich, a second liner or possibly a first liner, and like a first or second round pick. Like, I don't know if that's worth throwing all of that away just for Hellebuyck. You know what I mean? Like, and again, people are free to disagree, and you know, leave a comment if you think that Hellebuyck is worth it and we should go for it. But I don't see this working out for New Jersey. As of right now, I think New Jersey right now, last time I checked Cap Friendly, New Jersey was sitting on about, I think it was $25 million in cap space. Now, we just signed Haula, so he'll get 3.7, almost 4 million. Let's just go with 4 million and worst comes to worst, right? He gets about 4 million a year, right? That brings us down to 21 million. You give Hellebuyck 9 million. That brings you down to what? $12 million to play around with? And you still haven't signed Meyer, who's probably going to get 8? And now we're left with 3 or 4 million in cap space? Is this what we want to do? We want to leave 3 or 4 million, and we still have all these other guys we still have to get on the books? And that's not even to mention free agency. If you want to bring in someone later in the year, you're going to have to make cap space room, which means you're not going to get rid of Hellebuyck because you just re-signed him. So you're going to have to get rid of someone else on the roster that has already proved their value to this team to make room for some guy in free. I don't know. I don't like where the dominoes kind of fall, right? It just doesn't seem like a good idea for New Jersey to do this. Okay? So that's my little Hellebuyck spiel. And I think I'll leave it there. The third thing I want to talk about, there was a big announcement by Gary Bettman. I can't remember if it was, I think it was yesterday, the day before. I was kind of muddling this over if I wanted to talk about this or not. And I think I'm going to, because I like kind of dipping my foot into the deep water a little bit, kind of get my toe wet. So there's a controversial announcement that was laid up on Gary Bettman earlier this week. And it was about not having any specific event-type jerseys in the league anymore. Now, before I say this, I want to be clear. We don't necessarily have 100% of the details as to how this is going to be played out. So, For those of you who don't know, there was a lot of controversy this year with certain players in the NHL not wanting to wear Pride-themed jerseys during warm-ups because it either conflicted with their personal beliefs or it was they kind of feared repercussions from countries that they came from, specifically Russia, who, as most people know, has a very anti-LGBTQ policy going on in Russia right now. And some players fear, backlash when they went back home. What was going to happen if they openly supported this? Some players didn't want to do it because it conflicted with their personal moral beliefs. People like the Stahl brothers and Reimer this year. And I am making perfectly clear where I stand on this. I think that every single player in the NHL kind of has a right to say no to wearing whatever jersey it is the team is going to be wearing. If it's a Hockey Beats Cancer jersey, if it's a Pride jersey, if it's a military or veteran appreciation, military appreciation night, and they wear the Canada jerseys, I think that every player has a right to say, you know what, I don't really support this. I don't want to participate in this particular event, which, depending on the person, you might think that's outrageous, you might think that's totally fair. Kind of depends where you come from. I personally think everyone has the right to say no if they don't want to participate in something. That's just my thing. Now, in terms of the league, straight up banning all of these specific event, specific jerseys, we don't know how it's going to play out yet. At the end of the day, though, it is the NHL's right to say no to hosting these kind of these jersey-specific events. I like a lot of the particular events the NHL holds, whether I really like the Hockey Beats Cancer. I have a lot of people in my family, in my, immediate and, extended family who battled cancer. My Nana actually just recently passed away of melanoma, which is a kind of skin cancer. And I really like those events because I think they raise a lot of money and a lot of good for a lot of these really good charities. I'm for those who don't know, I'm Canadian, and I know that in the U.S. They have a lot more of a what word do I want to use here? Not religious, but sort of a we stand with the troops kind of thing. In Canada, we don't have that as much. In Canada, we kind of have a culture of we respect the military, but we're not going to be every single time there's a thing really getting into it like the U.S. does. And you know what, U.S., I respect that, whatever. It's not quite what Canada does, but, it is what it is. I respect those kinds of things. I think we should respect people who kind of lay down their lives to protect the country they love. But again, I think that if someone doesn't like, the U.S.'s foreign policy, or they don't like the U.S. sending in troops to other countries, I think those players have a right to say, no, I don't want to participate in this event. The same right that I think that the Stahl brothers and Reimer and, what's his name on Philadelphia? What was it? Provorov? Someone on Philadelphia, can't remember what his name is, didn't want to participate. I think they have the right to say no, even if it's a thing like Pride events, because I think that people, while each person kind of has a right to say, you know what, I agree with this, I don't agree with this. I think it's, people have a right to say, no, I don't, believe in this. And that's, I think they have a right to say that kind of thing. And if they don't want to participate, then that's how they want to do it. Now, in terms of the NHL doing this from a kind of top-down, we're going to say that we're not doing it here, and then you guys down here are going to listen. I think that every team has a right to say, you know what, we want to do these kinds of things. We want to hold these kind of events. We want to have these kind of jerseys on our players during the thing. I think that's totally fine. So I don't like that the NHL as a totality is kind of setting this rule from top to bottom. Okay? It is their business. They have a right to put out whatever policy, whatever procedure they want to do. But as someone who does think that the NHL does a lot of good with these events, I think it's good that you kind of have these, signature jerseys. They often get auctioned off for charity. They raise a lot of good money for a lot of really important, causes. And if you support that, great. If you don't, that's totally fine as well, right? I get where people are coming from on both sides of the argument, and I think people just kind of need to listen a little bit more to each other rather than, screaming at people on Twitter, because that's a, talking cesspool of nonsense. But yeah, that's kind of my position. We don't know if these events just aren't going to happen anymore. We don't know if the events are still going to happen, but they're just not going to have the associated jerseys for them. We don't know, because we don't have the full details of how this is going to work out. We don't know if the NHL is going to reverse their decision on this, because Bettman said that they did this because of the fact that they had faced a lot of social pressure, a lot of social backlash. Maybe if there's enough backlash on the other side of it, they'll bring it back. We don't know right now. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm coming from. I like these kind of events. I like the jerseys, especially when they're being auctioned off for good. I think that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing. Leave a comment if you agree. Leave a comment if you disagree, and explain why. And if you're going to be talking about us in the comments, be respectful. Don't be a dick about it. All that kind of stuff. So, I think that wraps up my kind of spiel for now. Erik Haula signs a 3-year deal. Tom Fitzgerald did a great job on that. Connor Hellebuyck, I don't think should become a Devil. I think his cost, I think the cons vastly outweigh the pros. And I don't want the league as a top-down telling individual teams what they can and cannot do when it comes to what events they want to run in their own organization. So yeah, that's going to be it from me, guys, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Adios.